Hello and welcome to Backlisted, the podcast which gives new life to old books. The book featured on today's show is The Tombs of Atuan by Ursula K. Guin. A story that first appeared in 1970 in World of Fantasy magazine, before being published as a novel the following year by Athenaeum Books in the USA and Victor Gallant in the UK. I'm Andy Miller, author of The Year of Reading Dangerously and Inventory, an unreliable guide to my record collection.
And I'm Dr. Una McCormack, award-winning science fiction author and associate fellow of Homerton College, Cambridge.
Wait, let me correct you already, because although you are that person, you said award-winning, but that's not true, is it? Since I last spoke to you, you are now awards-winning.
I am award-winning author, Dr. Una McCormack. That's right, I've won 2 awards. 25 years without one, and it's like buses. 2 have come already.
Congratulations.
Thank you
How
very
amazing.
Much. Thank you.
Not amazing. You deserve them.
Thank
They're long
you,
overdue.
Andy. I think so too.
Don't say the wrong thing.
It'd be terrible.
Yeah. What are they?
I've won a British Science Fiction Association Award for Best Fiction for Younger Readers for my Doctor Who novel, Caged. And
your Target novelisation?
Not the Target novelisation, no.
Oh, a different one?
A different one, yeah, of the many.
Oh, my God.
And the International Association of TV tie-in writers have finally honoured me for one of my Star Trek novels, Asylum. So 2 awards in the space of 15 minutes, well, a few months, so it's very nice.
Amazing. I foolishly thought we'd been lucky to book Frank, but as it turns out, it was you we were delighted to get.
That's right. Yeah, the Scribe Award from the tie-in guys. That's my
well, congratulations, and I'm sure all the listeners will share wishing you the very best with your career. Backlisted has been running for almost 10 years, and in that time, we've built up a community of listeners, patrons, and guests. Plus, of course, a back catalogue of nearly 250 shows, covering everything from the Diary of a Nobody to the Journal of a Disappointed Man.
Now, one easy way to support the podcast and to listen to episodes from our backlist is to follow Backlisted on whatever podcast app you use. You can explore the back catalogue for free, plus it helps flag the show up to new listeners.
In other words, please subscribe to Backlisted. As I said a moment ago, Backlisted has been going for 10 years, and to mark that anniversary, we are recording 2 live shows in New York in the last week of October. Obviously, we are tremendously excited about that. On Monday, the 27th of October, we're at 92NY, aka the 92nd Street Y, for a special episode on William Maxwell at the New Yorker. And tickets are available now from 92ny.org. And then 2 nights later, on Wednesday, the 29th of October, like complete unknowns, Backlisted is playing The Bitter End in Greenwich Village for an episode on books by winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature himself, Bob Dylan. And tickets for that are available from www.bitterend.com. It has been pointed out that on the last episode, I got my historic Dylan venues in Greenwich Village mixed up and referred not to the Bitter End, but the Bottom Line. Well, we're not playing the Bottom Line yet, but we are playing the Bitter End. As Una pointed out earlier, neither of those 2 venues' names especially propitious. If it does turn out to be the final show, you'll know why. But anyway, yes, we're really looking forward to that. So that's the final week of October, New York City. We hope to meet quite a lot of you there.
Right, well, joining us on today's show to discuss Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea novels, and specifically the 2nd volume, The Tombs of Atuan, is an old friend of the show, Frank Cottrell-Boyce. Frank, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
Excellent.
Don't stand on ceremony, will you, Una?
No, I won't. Not with a guest this auspicious and propitious. Frank Cottrell-Boyce is the current UK Waterstones Children's Laureate. He won the Carnegie Medal for his debut novel Millions, which was made into a film by Danny Boyle, with whom he also worked on the 2012 Olympic Games opening ceremony. He won the Guardian Fiction Prize for The Unforgotten Coat. In his career, he's written for Brookside, Coronation Street, and Doctor Who. His most recent film is an adaptation of Michael Morpurgo's Kensuke's Kingdom, and he's the proud recipient of a brief hug from Dolly Parton.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get to the bottom of that one, please.
We'll get to that in a minute, yeah.
He's appeared on previous episodes of Backlisted to discuss the Moomins, the Railway Children, and the life and opinions of Tristram Shandy. And with the brilliant Nadia Shireen, he co-hosts the children's literature podcast, The Island of Brilliant.
Never mind all that, though, because let's be clear about what's going on here. This whole show is a demonstration of the old school tie in action. It's not what you know,
Exactly.
is it? It's who you know. Because these two, Una and Frank, are members of the so-called St. Helens Mafia.
It's pronounced St. Helens, not St. Helens. St. Helens.
St. Helens. Well, there we go.
St. Helens.
I'm excluded from their club, everybody.
It's like knowing the
shibboleth.
Puffin Club passwords, isn't it?
So, Frank, please sniff up. Yeah,
Spot
Frank, what is Una to you?
Una is the younger sister of a girl with whom I was in a play in 5th form or 6th form, and who I was too shy to say anything to. And she was very gamine. She was kind of a woolly back Audrey Hepburn. And that's her big sister.
Shout out there to my sister Moira. And when I first met Frank, he was delivering the Philippa Pierce lecture at Homerton College, Cambridge. And I went up to him and in a voice not often heard in Cambridge, I went, "Hiya, Frank, you know me sister?" "Do you know me sister, Moira?" And Frank said yes, that he did know my sister, Moira. Yeah, so that's how we first met.
Were you at the same school at the same time?
There were a boys' school and a girls' school. This is very Ursula Guin, if you think about it. There were a boys' school and a girls' school. They were very, very separate. They were literally separated by a stream of running water. How fairy tale is this? Called the brook, right?
The brook,
and you would go and sit on opposite sides of the brook and flirt across the brambles and the running water. This is making it sound a bit more kind of rural than it actually was.
Lads would be on one side and the girls would walk up and down the other. It was very happier days.
And Una, what play was being performed?
Well, as I understand it, although I never saw this, I was too small, it was West Side Story.
It was,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were Tony, and
I think it was Tony.
Moira was Anybody's Girl. She was the sort of tomboy. Yeah. So, but I never saw this, but it was a legendary production. I understand it
was
around St. Helens. Yeah,
St. Helens.
We should have got you on for the Sondheim show, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be amazing if I'd sourced some video footage? Unfortunately, I have not, Frank, so that's fine.
There might be etchings. There's no video.
Woodcuts, yeah.
Okay, so we're here to talk about The Tombs of Atuan by Ursula Le Guin. Now, in this second novel in the Earthsea series, a girl called Tenar is chosen as High Priestess to the ancient and nameless powers of the earth. Everything is taken away from her: home, family, possessions, and even her name. She becomes known only as Aha, which means the Eaten One, not from Eton, the school in Britain, but eaten as in E-A-T-E-N, consumed. And she guards the shadowy labyrinthine tombs of Atuan. Then a wizard, Ged Sparrowhawk, comes to steal the tomb's greatest hidden treasure, the ring of Ereth Akbe. Tenar's duty is to protect the ring, but Ged possesses the light of magic and tales of a world that Tenar has never known. She risks everything to escape from the darkness that has become her domain. The bulk of the action in the Tombs of Atuan takes place within the perpetually dark confines of the labyrinth, but it is Tenar's inner struggle with the social constructs that define her life that push the story towards a resolution of sorts.
Ursula Le Guin's oeuvre includes 23 novels, 12 volumes of short stories, 11 volumes of poetry, 13 children's books, 5 essay collections, and 4 works of translation. In her career, she won 6 Nebula Awards, 7 Hugo Awards, the SFWA's Grandmaster accolade, and the Pen Malamud, amongst many others, if we're counting awards, yeah?
But she never won that TV tie-in
She
one,
never
right,
got
though?
that TV tie-in one, no.
No, well, that's
She
fine.
didn't. In 2014, she was awarded the National Book Foundation Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters, and in 2016 joined the short list of authors to be published in their lifetimes by the Library of America. Her work has been translated into 42 languages and has sold millions of copies worldwide. No less an authority than Harold Bloom included her among his list of classic American writers, while Grace Paley said of her, like all great writers of fiction, Ursula K. Le Guin creates imaginary worlds that restore us, hearts eased to our own.
Now, history does not record whether Ursula Le Guin received a hug from Dolly Parton. I like to think she did. But speaking to a man who has experienced that thing, could you tell us a bit about that? When did that happen?
After a gig, she played a gig in Liverpool, and I, because of the Imagination Library, which is her literacy charity, I was on the guest list and had a little word with her. She gave me a little hug. And she's very, very tiny, is what I can tell you. She's very tiny. She is the little sparrow.
I think when she does appearances now, she describes herself as the recipient of a brief hug from Frank Cottrell-Boyce.
Definitely, she does that. Yeah.
Star of West Side Story. We're going to take a little break now, but when we come back, why do the Earthsea novels continue to attract generations of young readers? If the Tombs of Atuan is an allegory, which it might be, or it might not be, what is it an allegory of? And did Ursula Le Guin really teach at a school in St. Helens? The answers we seek may be found just beyond this message.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
New Vitamin Water Zero Sugar Pineapple Passion Fruit is packed with vitamins. Just like the amount of peas we packed in that sentence. It's packed like your tote bag. The one you stole from your ex. Or your overpriced half-a-studio apartment. Or extra rushed rush hour traffic. Packed like your calendar. Triple booked at 5, of course. Grab a vitamin water. Did we mention it's packed with vitamins?
Welcome back. So we should begin by asking Frank, as we always do, when did you first become aware of the works of Ursula Le Guin?
Yeah, I can remember it really clearly. I was off school, and I wasn't very often off school. And I had a puffin copy of The Wizard of Earthsea. And I read it, and I could feel it completely rearranging my brain. I just thought it was the most extraordinary. I hate using the word immersive, but I was completely lost in it. I've never seen a book with such a great map. And I think one of the ways of possessing it was that I learned the names of as many of those islands as possible. But the big thing was that it made knowing stuff sexy. It gave glamour to learning. Because Ged is in this school for wizards. We should say this is The Wizard of Earthsea is about school for wizards. And there are 2 types of knowledge. There's a kind of flashy, illusory, entertaining knowledge. And there's a deeper knowledge of knowing things. And the most kind of charismatic, attractive character in it is Guin, to me anyway, who's this sort of mage who lives in the countryside. He's a herbalist, really. And just is great at listening and watching and really understanding things thing by thing. And I just found it absolutely astounding. And to this day, if I see anything in that font, I think it was Pilgrim Linotype.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I had
Pilgrim Linotype is the perfect name of a font for this book.
Yeah.
as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's
To look
beautiful. What a beautiful, lovely thing. Can I ask Una then the same question to you? Because I know, Una, that Ursula Le Guin is a very important writer to you. Can you talk to us, first of all, when did you first read Tombs? And then we'll expand from there. When did you first read Tombs?
So I suspect I received the 3 books of the original trilogy for Christmas, just before, around about my 9th birthday, possibly my 10th birthday, because I've still got the copies. I kind of looked at the imprint date, and it's 1981. So I read them all together very, very quickly. And we'll come back to the 3rd book in the trilogy, because I didn't understand it until my 30s. But Wizard of Earthsea I loved for the similar reasons, this sort of learning about knowledge and study and making study something that you could reasonably do. But it was Tombs of
Yes.
Atuan that absolutely blew my mind. And just like Frank said, and I've had this happen with a lot of books by Le Guin, I've sat down and read them, and I could feel that it's new synapses formed, or my brain has reprogrammed. Because of the books by her that I've been reading, and that's happened repeatedly over my life. But I was about 9, I think, when I read Earthsea, the trilogy, originally.
Well, listeners, I'm not going to lie to you on this occasion. I was 57 when I first read The Tombs of Atuan, and I am going to read you the prologue of this novel, and then tell you what I thought of it after I read it last week. So here we go. This is the prologue by Ursula Le Guin of The Tombs of Atuan. Come home, Tenar, come home. In the deep valley, in the twilight, the apple trees were on the eve of blossoming. Here and there among the shadowed boughs, one flower had opened early, rose and white, like a faint star. Down the orchard aisles, in the thick, new, wet grass, the little girl ran for the joy of running. Hearing the call, she did not come at once, but made a long circle before she turned her face towards home. The mother, waiting in the doorway of the hut, with the firelight behind her, watched the tiny figure running and bobbing like a bit of thistledown blown over the darkening grass beneath the trees. By the corner of the hut, scraping clean, an earth-clotted hoe, the father said, "Why do you let your heart hang on the child? They're coming to take her away next month. For good. Might as well bury her and be done with it. What's the good of clinging to one you're bound to lose? She's no good to us. If they'd pay for her when they took her, that would be something, but they won't. They'll take her, and that's an end of it." The mother said nothing, watching the child who had stopped to look up through the trees. Over the high hills above the orchards, the evening star shone piercing clear. "She isn't ours. She never was since they came here and said she must be the priestess at the tombs. Why can't you see that?" The man's voice was harsh with complaint and bitterness. "You have 4 others. They'll stay here, and this one won't. So, don't set your heart on her. Let her go." "When the time comes," the woman said, "I will let her go." She bent to meet the child, who came running on little bare white feet across the muddy ground, and gathered her up in her arms. As she turned to enter the hut, she bent her head to kiss the child's hair, which was black, but her own hair in the flicker of firelight from the hearth was fair. The man stood outside, his own feet bare and cold on the ground, the clear sky of spring darkening above him. His face in the dusk was full of grief, a dull, heavy, angry grief that he would never find the words to say. At last, he shrugged and followed his wife into the firelit room that rang with children's voices. I'm now going to turn to my colleagues on this show and say that prologue is as good as anything I've read for Backlisted in the last 10 years. It's so simple, straightforward, packed with detail, information. And, do you want to know what happens next? Absolutely you do. And I know almost nothing about Ursula Le Guin, and I had never read any of these books, and she got me on page 1. She had me at prologue. What do you two make of that paragraph, hearing it again?
Well, there's a lightness of touch to the world building. I think if we hear that something's a fantasy novel, we immediately go, oh, heck, I'm going to be in kind of long lists of X begat Y begat Z. But there is a lightness of touch of that grounds it in reality, but at the same time begins the estrangement. So we are entirely with these people and things that are recognizable and grounded, but the world is starting to unfold. Yeah, we're not in a kind of medieval Europe or wherever. Already we're talking about the priestesses and the tombs, and that just gives us that thread to start us through the book.
Also, Frank, there's some very skillful psychological development to the reader straight away.
Oh, 100%. And
the father who seems to be one thing and then is, as I emphasised in my reading, he's actually heavy with grief.
Yeah,
a particular
absolutely.
kind of grief that he can't articulate. Brilliant.
And that's all so deft. And you're talking about, there's an extra dimension for us because you're talking about she had you at page 1. But coming at this from The Wizard of Earthsea, which is full of light and wind and adventure and is about a young man, into that scene, we should be completely thrown. That's what the hell? What are we doing here? Where has this come from? But you still don't let go. It's not, oh, here's the start of a great new story. It's like, what? This isn't where I thought it was going to be. But I still have to go on. Rereading it for this, there's lots to talk about philosophically and in terms of fantasy and all this stuff. The main thing that struck me reading it again is like, my God, she's just so brilliant. The quality of writing
She's
is
so
just
good.
extraordinary.
It's just, yeah,
Absolutely
just word by word, and knowing where this book goes and how effortless it is, how crafted it is. It's just, there's nothing like her. There really isn't. Auntie, it amazes me that you hadn't read these before, because you were, I venture to say you were a bookish child, and I would have thought these would have been on the shelf. Just something you would have worked through along with everything else.
We all have gaps, don't we?
Yeah.
I can't really account for it. I haven't read beyond this volume, so I cannot say if this continues to be true in future volumes. But the difference between Wizard of Earthsea and Tombs of Atuan is not dissimilar to the difference between Star Wars: A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, in as much as Volume 1 of the Star Wars, or Volume 4, but it's just called Star Wars. I called it A New Hope. I must stop doing that. We all know it's only called Star Wars. Anyway, is about light, isn't it? It's about a lightsaber, and it's about a young man having a heroic adventure. And then Empire Strikes Back is much darker and is transitional as well, and changes, Frank, the nature of the narrative. I was very struck by how different Tombs of Atuan is from Wizard of Earthsea.
Oh my
for
God.
A book that was written within 18 months of the first volume,
it's extraordinary.
Right?
Yeah. You mentioned light. Wizard of Earthsea is full of light. It's set in an archipelago and these tiny little voyages in a tiny little ship, and it's full of wind and breeziness and salt and fish. And suddenly, you're underground. And also, you're kind of expecting, you pick up this thinking the further adventures of Ged, the further adventures of Sparrowhawk, whatever. And actually, I think we're on about page 50 before he turns up. And it maybe even a little bit longer before you actually completely identify him. And not just not him, but like, it's not part of the world that you've ever been in. Earthsea. It's not, you're in a part of Earthsea that you've not really seen. You've heard rumours of. But that world, in terms of this kind of heavy, ritualised, Wizard of Earthsea feels very sort of Celtic, or Northern. And this feels like, this is the weight of incredible antiquity, but literally bearing down on your head. It's ancient, it's dark, it's all female. It's so different. And the magic that's in this book is not the magic. It's got nothing in common with Wizard of Earthsea. And yet you're just compelled to be in there. It's so, and you can, it gives you a hunger.
Earthsea is about flight,
you want
and
him.
air and the wind under your wings. It turns into a hawk and flies, and you feel that lightness of being carried. Atuan is about the earth, about being buried, about your mouth filling, your nostrils filling. It's just like Francis says, a heavy, heavy book.
We're going to hear from Ursula Guin herself now, and I think this might be helpful to newcomers to this world. Here she's talking about how she built Earthsea, what Earthsea is, and why she was inspired to approach creating these islands in this way.
I had wondered about wizards. All wizards were old men with white beards. But they couldn't have been old their whole life. What were they like when they were 14? How do you learn to be a wizard? Do you go to wizard school? This was not, at that time, a well-known concept, idea of a wizard school. When I started writing A Wizard of Earthsea, I just sort of knew what Guin had to do. But I didn't know where he was going to go and how he was going to do it. But it is full of hints and suggestions and almost promises about Guin's later life and Earthsea in general. I was obviously writing messages to myself the way writers do without knowing it. There's more to this story than you know. Having drawn the maps and named these places and gave me this sort of canvas to draw on anywhere I wanted to. And I could sort of travel anywhere I wanted to on that map and find out what sort of adventures lay here or there. The connection between what I do as a writer, making worlds out of words, and what my wizards do in the archipelago. Obviously, to me, words do make magic in a sense.
So what was interesting for me about that clip is what Ursula Guin was saying there about words and magic and changing the world is not a million miles from what Alan Moore was saying a few episodes back about the same thing, right, Una?
That's right, yeah. And the whole magic system in Earthsea sort of pins on being able to discover the true name of something. That if you learn something's true name, it gives you not just power over them, or I know that might be a stone or a pebble or something, but it also gives you the responsibility of that power, which is kind of a theme of hers. But I think also what she's saying in that is a little bit of what Frank was saying before, that the world of Earthsea is something a little different perhaps from what, if you've come to Earthsea from Tolkien, you're used to those kind of big maps that are in fantasy books, but these are tiny islands and they're distinctive in their own right. And then as we journey through in Earthsea, Wizard of Earthsea, we see these different places, the North Reach, the South Reach. But what happens in Atuan is that we're in an entirely different place. These Kargish lands, so they're on it's a very, very different culture. So it gives her power to move around. And I think that restart of the book, there's kind of the only similar thing I can think of is what Philip Pullman does between Northern Lights and The Subtle Knife. It's like the books restart, but you're being asked to trust that they're connected in some way, I think.
Frank, does the archipelago idea of Earthsea allow her almost, I mean, it's hard to know whether she envisaged this from the start, but does it allow her to adopt a different tone depending on which physical location she's writing about, which island she's writing about?
I think what the islands does is that it gives you, because they're small, as Una said, they each have a really strong sense of place. So you've got that thing of like someone who really, really belongs somewhere that is apart from other places, but who is going to these other places and taking part of home with him. It's not just a walk, it's a voyage every time. Roke is this sort of Oxbridgey, Hogwartsy school. Gaunt feels it's like full of goat herders, and then the Kargish lands are deserts. So you've got this sort of vast geography that you don't really have to explain that much. This is what we I can't emphasize enough how light the world building is, and yet how complete. I feel as though I've been to the archipelago. There are things that I took from Wizard of Earthsea and Tombs of Atuan that feel to me like my own memories. They're so vivid, but there's no glossary there. There's no kind of big vocabulary. In the bit that you read from the very beginning, there's no kind of forced strangeness. These are apple trees. These are goats. This is a fire. These are all very familiar things in a different world.
The one of my favourite bits of world building is that people are constantly talking about Ged having a Gontish accent. Yeah. And it places him immediately. We don't know what that sounds like, but we know how people are reacting to him. I bet he says Centellins, for example. So,
Yeah.
But it places him in the social hierarchy. Like Frank says, it's just super light touch. I think I've dreamt of, there's a very magic place on Roke. It's called the Imminent Grove. And I'm pretty sure I've dreamt of it, that it's turned up in my dreams. It works that kind of magic on your subconscious.
But also, if you've ever been in an archipelago, if you've been in the Western Isles or if you've been to the Hebrides, that sense of looking out and seeing mountains, but knowing that there's sea between you and those mountains, and that the mountains beyond those mountains, there's more sea, that kind of weird meeting of different elements that's there. It's really strong in this book.
Tombs of Atuan is, in contrast to Wizard of Earthsea, the first volume, Tombs of Atuan is a more dialogue-heavy book, which makes the elements of world building all the more skillful, because fundamentally, Tombs of Atuan is two characters talking to one another. Furthermore, thank goodness, I say as someone who struggles sometimes with this stuff, they talk like people talk.
Yeah.
So that little bit I read there at the beginning, the father does not express himself in a kind of pseudo heightened, we are on another world. No, this is the thing they do in Doctor Who, guys, as you will both know. No, Cantor, there can be no blah, blah, blah. It's not done like that. They talk like people talk. So I wonder whether the world building, this is a difficult question. Let me try and frame this right. Mm-hmm. Frank, you were talking about balance, the balance of our three faces on this screen. What is the balance in these books between world building, ideas, and dialogue?
Two things about Le Guin's world building. First of all, it's completely convincing. You feel as though you've been to those places in a way that I can only compare it to Narnia, which you read at the most impressionable age, and which definitely stays with you. The other thing, I mean, try to think about why it works. And one of the big things is that it's not a spectacle world building. It's not, oh, this world's got 10 moons, or everybody's got a pointy head or anything like that. The world that you enter is a world that thinks differently. It's not even, oh, these people have magic, because the magic that they do have, and there's very little magic in these books, is really hard won. There's two kinds of magic. There's kind of conjuring, which is Stariel does, and which is all lovely and nice, and she throws it in from time to time. But it's basically, it's Paul Daniels. And at the other end is this sort of learning to connect with, on a very deep level, with things in the world and creatures in the world. And Una, you said before that kind of magic brings with it a responsibility, but I'm not even sure if that's the right word, because what it really brings with it is a kind of emotional connection. that Ogian, the silent mage, really, really, really understands rosemary or parsley or sage. He really gets them, and so he can name them. And like a lot of the time, it's like, well, I can't make you any better than you are. You're just great as you are. It's just like, it's a kind of profound attention. It's a profound appreciation of the way things are. And if they need to use that to change something, it comes at a very heavy cost. One of the best moments, most moving moments in Earthsea is when Ged, whose nickname is Sparrowhawk, literally turns himself into a hawk. And then you see him, I'm going to tear up at this. I'm sorry. But you see him crouched by the fire. He's gone back to Ogian's little house where he really belongs, and which he's foolishly rejected. And he's crouched by the fire like this wounded bird, drying out and coming back to life, this little fledgling. I mean, this is astonishing stuff. And all of Atuan is like that. All of Atuan is about the cost of this,
Well,
The cost of that power. Yeah, I mean, I cry hearing her voice. I just, when I hear Le Guin speak, it brings me to tears.
But it's it's so simple,
so
this thing
simple.
of the name, and you completely believe it. So that, spoiler alert, about halfway through this book, he turns to the Eaten One, and he calls her by a name which she doesn't know. It's her name, and she doesn't. The character in the book does not get it, but you do.
Yeah.
You get absolute goose pimples at that point, as you do in Earthsea when the shadow turns around to Ged and he realizes its name is Ged.
It's Ged. Yeah.
Well, we need to take a quick break to recover, apart from anything else. When we come back, we're going to hear Ursula Le Guin's 2014 acceptance speech for the National Book Award. She was in her early 80s at this point, and I'd never seen or heard this before, and it stopped me in my tracks. And we're going to hear the whole thing, because I think you listeners might be surprised by what you hear from this sweet old lady.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I rejoice in accepting it for and sharing it with all the writers who were excluded from literature for so long, my fellow authors of fantasy and science fiction, writers of the imagination, who for the last 50 years watched the beautiful awards go to the so-called realists. I think hard times are coming when we will be wanting the voices of writers who can see alternatives to how we live now and can see through our fear-stricken society and its obsessive technologies to other ways of being, and even imagine some real grounds for hope. We will need writers who can remember freedom, poets, visionaries, the realists of a larger reality. Right now, I think we need writers who know the difference between production of a market commodity and the practice of an art. Developing written material to suit sales strategies in order to maximize corporate profit and advertising revenue is not quite the same thing as responsible book publishing or authorship. Thank you, brave applauders. Yet, I see sales departments given control over editorial. I see my own publishers in a silly panic of ignorance and greed charging public libraries for an e-book 6 or 7 times more than they charge customers. We just saw a profiteer try to punish a publisher for disobedience, and writers threatened by corporate fatwa. And I see a lot of us, the producers, who write the books and make the books, accepting this, letting commodity profiteers sell us like deodorant and tell us what to publish and what to write. Well, I love you too, darling. Books, they're not just commodities. The profit motive is often in conflict with the aims of art. We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable. So did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art, and very often in our art, the art of words. I have had a long career and a good one, in good company. Now here, at the end of it, I really don't want to watch American literature get sold down the river. We who live by writing and publishing want and should demand our fair share of the proceeds. But the name of our beautiful reward is not profit. Its name is freedom. Thank you.
Well,
Wow.
Kick out the jams, brothers and sisters.
Kick out the jams.
Yeah.
That's what I say. That is pretty incredible, right? That's 2015. Ursula Guin died in 2018, and she wasn't to know that things would get even worse over the last 10 years than when she was giving that speech.
I've managed not to cry this time, Frank. I thought I was going to be the first one to cry on this, but that just gets me every time. It's the vitality of the voice. It's the truth of it. It's the fearlessness of it. She was a great voice and an honest voice and a far-seeing voice. And I really miss it. I really miss it.
It's a confident one as well. It's like, it's got no gratitude. There's no like, oh,
I'd like
thank
to
you for
thank my
publishing me.
agent. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, thank you so much for publishing me. Which I think all writers do, because we know it's a privilege.
Yeah.
But she's like, she didn't think it is.
Yeah. It's like, I've got 5 minutes and I'm very old now, and you'd better listen to this, because it's not just that I'm very old, I'm very wise, and I've got you for 5 minutes and I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And then it's up to you what to do with it. It's amazing speech.
Frank, we're of a certain age where listening to that, it occurred to me that many of the writers that we experienced as children, either books that we read or we saw dramatizations of on TV, or we had read to us on Jackanory or at school, were a kind of confluence of editorial power shared between TV and radio producers, teachers, and librarians. And when she talks about the effect of the market of living in capitalism on what we read, it made me think of something Una and I were talking about the other day, which is the benign influence of somebody like Kay Webb, the editorial director of Puffin.
100%.
Right? Who, if it weren't for her and a few people like her, we wouldn't have been challenged to read Le Guin, Alan Garner, Leon Garfield, you know, the list goes, Rosemary Sutcliffe, the list goes on and on and on. And I wonder how in your role, you can't fix it. You know, you've got magic at your command, Frank Cottrell-Boyce, if you choose the right word. But in your role as Children's Laureate, how much do you have to distinguish between, I'll be blunt, getting people to read at all and getting them to read the good stuff?
Whoa. I mean, I think that some of the people that you've mentioned probably are irreplaceable, and we just have to face up to the fact that we're bloody lucky to have lived in the Kay Webb era.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That she was able, because she was a publisher and a distributor, really, she was like a studio. And she was able also to commission stuff.
It's a literary editorial complex, not the military industrial complex, the literary editorial complex.
And they were sure that quality was really important. You know, they were absolutely sure that quality was really important. On the other hand, you know, that was how it looked to us. But there were loads of kids who were completely excluded from that as well.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a whole range of
I accept that.
other voices and tones in there now that she didn't promote, and that, you know, she would never have found. But she was just incredible. And Le Guin is definitely that list. Le Guin, Garner, Leon Garfield. We were so lucky to have had those as our.
Is Le Guin read widely now?
Oh, that's a good question. The 11-year-old that I come into contact with regularly is not interested in reading fantasy, actually.
In terms of like being Children's Laureate and talking to lots of children about books, her name doesn't come up. I mean, I'm pretty sure that her currency is still very strong among bookish teens. Yeah. But in terms of 9 and 10-year-olds who like fantasy, no, she's not there. So I always push her. You know, I always say that this is the greatest, which I think it is. I was thinking, why doesn't she have the clout that she does? And is part of it, I wonder, to do with nationalism in a way? Like Tolkien tried to write a new matter of England. Hogwarts is very much an idealized Britain if it had magic. Earthsea's not a specific place, is it?
It's a really good point.
It is in the world of story. It is not even Pullman, like, it's very much, this is Oxford.
Yeah.
And when it's not Oxford, it's quite musty and busty and bookish. It's a world that you might glimpse in the Pit Rivers. You know?
Yeah.
That might be where the portal is. There's no portal to Earthsea.
I've got a little piece here. We were just talking about Kay Webb, the editorial director of Puffin in the 60s and 70s. And here is a piece from the early 1970s. It's almost like I planned this. From Kay Webb, writing about Ursula Le Guin. And Frank, you're going to love one tiny detail in this. Right. So this was in the Daily Express in about 1973. And this is what Kay Webb wrote. She said, "There are joyful, though rare, occasions in an editor's working life when she finds herself in possession of a work which is so absolutely right that it seems to have been conceived whole in one single magnificent instant rather than through the normal processes of creation. And just as a record-breaking athlete makes a permanent change in the possibilities of physical achievement, it sets a new standard by which similar books must be judged. Ursula Le Guin's A Wizard of Earthsea was such a one for me. There was not a sentiment I questioned, nor a sentence I wanted changed. My only frustration was the delay until I could share it with puffin readers."
Wow.
Frank, would you like to read to us in your best Jackanory style from Tombs of Atuan?
Yeah, this is like something that, picking up on some of the things we've talked about, that the world is actually quite like our world. People are hungry, there's rabbits, and that magic has a cost. So they've just, this is a spoiler again, they've got out of the tombs. They're leaving. And he's taking her out of this world that's completely defined her since childhood. And they're leaving. How far are we from the sea? It took me 2 nights and 2 days coming. It'll take a lot longer going. I'm strong, she said. You are. And valiant. But your companion is tired, he said with a smile. And we haven't any too much bread. Will we find water? Tomorrow, in the mountains. Can you find food for us, she asked, rather vaguely and timidly. Hunting takes time. And weapons. Now, I meant, with spells. I can call a rabbit, he said, poking the fire with a twisted stick of juniper. The rabbits are coming out of their holes all around us right now. Evening is their time. I could call one by name, and he would come. But would you catch and skin and cook a rabbit that you'd call to you thus? Perhaps if you were starving, but it would be a breaking of trust, I think. Yeah, I thought perhaps you could just summon up a supper, he said. Well, I could, on golden plates, but that's illusion. And when you eat illusion, you end up hungrier than before. It's about as nourishing as eating your own words. She saw his white teeth flash in the firelight. Your magic is peculiar, she said, with a little dignity of equals. Priestess, addressing mage. It appears to be useful only for large matters. He laid more wood on the fire, and it flared up in juniper-scented fireworks of sparks and crackles. Can you really call a rabbit? She inquired suddenly. Do you want me to? She nodded. He turned away from the fire and said softly into the immense dark, Kebo, oh Kebo. No sound, no motion. Only presently, at the very edge of the flickering fire, a round eye, like a pebble of jet, very near the ground, a curve of furry back, an ear, long, alert, upraised. The ear flicked, gained a sudden partner ear out of the dark, and then, as the little beast turned, she saw it entire for an instant, the small, soft, lithe hop of it, returning, unconcerned, into the night. I love it that she's like a priestess, and then she's like a little girl who wants to see a rabbit.
Yeah.
It's completely fine.
Yeah. And it's so rabbity. Yeah.
I want to hear a quick clip now from the 1980s. This is Le Guin asked about the pros and cons of being seen as a genre writer.
Well, I noticed it seemed to me that in your articles about science fiction, a somewhat of a frustration with being in a category. Do you feel some kind of?
Well, it cuts both ways. If you're put into one of these pigeonholes, a genre like romances or science fiction or westerns or mysteries, a lot of readers and a lot of the serious critics and reviewers will automatically not even read your books. So you're cut out from a certain amount of dialogue and a certain amount of readership because people automatically assume that if it's science fiction, it's got to be lousy, you see, that sort of thing, which is very unfortunate and rather stupid. It's changing because now science fiction is being taught as simply a branch of literature, which it is in a lot of schools and colleges. So all that is changing, and that's the bad side of the coin. The good side is that if you're a science fiction writer, you have a large and intelligent readership ready-made.
Yeah, well, you have fans, so you have a fan club after
and they
you.
write you letters.
Mm-hmm.
They respond to the author much more than most readers do. And so you get immediate feedback on a book, which is great. And they say, this was lousy, that was good. So, and most writers are so cut off from their audience.
So, Una, that was 40 years ago. Ursula Le Guin there describing the reputation of science fiction as unfortunate and rather stupid, that it isn't taken more seriously.
Yeah.
Has that changed? You as a genre writer, do you feel the power has shifted towards sci-fi, or is it still problematic?
Yes, so I think it has. I was amazed really that it come as far as it had. The time she was speaking, that people, she was saying people are already talking about it in terms of type of literature. Probably because she's in the States. I think it took maybe a little bit longer over here, partially because of her books. I'd say substantially because of her books and the generation reading them. I think the big breakthrough probably in the UK would be something like Cloud Atlas, which I think legitimizes that kind of, or contextualizes that kind of writing within the broader context of, English literature. So I think it's completely changed now. I suspect there would be pushback from certain quarters, but they've probably not read widely enough.
So we've just heard Ursula Guin talking about the pros and cons of being thought of as a genre writer, and that was in the 1980s. I've got a little excerpt from an interview that Erica Wagner did with her in the 2000s. Erica Wagner writes, as for fantasy beginning to get the recognition it deserves, witness Philip Pullman walking off with the Whitbread Prize, she says, quote, high time. Why not earlier? Anything that serves to break down the arbitrary academic critical barrier that has kept, say, Tolkien from being looked at as what he is, absolutely one of the great writers of the 20th century, anything that breaks down that barrier is good. The other thing, she says, that we're being accused of as genre writers is of being, quote, comforting. This is a big sin. We are not to offer comfort. I haven't really figured that one out, to tell you the truth. Of course, glib reassurance is not a good thing, but is the aim of fiction merely to make the reader miserable? It seems to me that fiction has very complicated aims, and among them can be comfort. I'm rereading War and Peace after 20 years, and in some ways I'm receiving enormous comfort from that book, simply because of Tolstoy's understanding of human nature. And so you think, yes, that is the way people are. And that's so sad, but it's also marvelous.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that brilliant? And in a sense, what you were saying, what we were saying about those recognizable human beings in her worlds.
Yeah.
Bear comparison with Tolstoy there. That seems totally real to me.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the only kind of quibble I have with any of that is that why would anyone want to be considered literature?
That might be the single most controversial things anyone said in 10 years of Backlisted. Thank you, Frank.
Well done, Frank.
Well done,
Well, you
Frank.
know what I mean? It's like, well, yeah, why would you want to be estimated? I think being underestimated is a really great thing.
Mm.
You're a really great thing. I sat down with Teams of Atuan thinking I was reading, for nostalgia. And oh my God, it was not nostalgic. It was brand new every time.
I've read Tombs of Atuan countless times since I was, 9 years old. And the most recent reread, there were two bits that I noticed that I had never noticed before. And a book that you can go back, and a book that has shaped me in significant ways, is made significant changes in my life. To come back to it again and go, here's something I had not seen. And I'm older and I read differently, but the book is still walking along that path with me.
Oh my God. I mean, this time for me, it was that whole thing of like an empty ritual, that you realize that the God King's priestess does not believe any of this.
Not at all.
They're
She's
living
a
in this world.
politician.
It's completely hollowed out for her. And the great twist is that, oh my God, it's all real. Is like horrifying. And also that idea that it's possible to believe something and for it to be bad.
Yes.
That is not a good thing. These are ineffectual. These are incredibly powerful, ancient things, but they're not good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And the form that their worship takes is not good as a consequence of that as well, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you both a challenging question in a moment. But first, we're going to turn to regular listeners will know I do heavy research for every episode of Backlisted. I comb the literary pages and I look at magazines and newspapers. And I discovered that Tombs of Atuan by Ursula Le Guin has been mentioned only once in the entire history of the Daily Mail. And I thought it would be worth sharing. And also, it was an opportunity to put Children's Laureate Frank Cottrell-Boyce through his paces because the Daily Mail in 2002 included Tombs of Atuan as part of potential answer in its coffee break quiz. That's the only time it's ever appeared in the Daily Mail, Frank. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions from the Daily Mail's coffee break quiz from 2002 and the culminating in the Tombs of Atuan one. Okay, so get ready. Get ready with your answers. And I'm picking them for reasons that will become clear that come on, Frank, you can do this. Here we go. Frank, it's going to be multiple choice. Which cartoon character lives in the town of Bedrock? Is it Scooby-Doo, Fred Flintstone, or Captain Caveman?
Fred Flintstone.
Correct. It is Fred Flintstone. Okay, that's one. You're one to the good. Here's the second question, which, Frank, you will know the answer to. What band was formed by Shaun Ryder after disbanding Happy Mondays? Was it Black Box, Black Crows, or Black Grape?
It was Black Grape, man.
It was Black Grape, man. There's the screenwriter of 24-Hour Party People does know the answer to that one, so that's good. And finally, here it is, the only time in the history of the Daily Mail that the Tombs of Atuan has been mentioned. Frank, what was the sequel to the Michael Douglas film Romancing the Stone? Was it The Sacred Scrolls, The Jewel in the Nile, or The Tombs of Atuan?
Really, really wish it would be in the Tombs of Atuan.
Imagine. Now, there would be a change of pace.
That would be great. It was a Jewel in the Nile.
It was a Jewel in the Nile. Thank you so much for humouring me there. Let me ask you both something more challenging, and then we'll maybe wrap things up. I said at the start of this programme that you could read Tombs of Atuan as an allegory. Perhaps you can, perhaps you can't. It seems to me that a fault in some modern storytelling is that the subtext often makes more sense than the text. That the symbolic meaning of the piece means that the story beats aren't attended to as carefully as they might be. Una, do you think this? I know, Frank, you said earlier you could read this as a story, as a narrative, and you can, and you'll be gripped by it. Una, if there is subtext, which I think there is, if it is an allegory, which it may or may not be, what is the subtext of Tombs of Atuan?
It's freedom, and it's a girl's freedom. That's what the story is to me. I don't know if that answers it subtextually, but that's what mattered to me and what worked a spell on me over about 15 or 20 years. I'd read this book, and then later came this awakening. And when I looked back, I saw what the work this book had done to prepare me for that.
You see it as central to your self-image, your sense of yourself, right?
It's a book that's part of the making, yeah? It's a book that without it, other books would have landed completely differently. It's altered bits of my head and my psyche, and then other books came later, some of them by Le Guin, completely altered the path of my life.
Frank, what's Tombs of Atuan about?
I think Una's obviously got a huge point about it's about a girl. is huge.
Mm.
But it's also about light, and it takes place in the absence of light, so that you know the value of light. And its extraordinary twist is that he is able to find something in that dark that by the end of the book, you think is going to bring light to everywhere. So there's that. For me, it's that the possibility of light. What she said in that speech that you quoted, that you played to us earlier, that the job of fantasy is to imagine better.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I said at the very top that the narrative reaches a resolution of sorts. I said a resolution of sorts. I don't want to give too many spoilers here. I found the ending the most convincing psychological element of the novel.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I don't know what it is. It isn't an ending in a sense. It's the start of a new.
It's a moving towards, I would say.
I was astonished on rereading it. You know, Una said she found something new. I was astounded to find that this book did not end with the destruction of the labyrinth. I thought that's where the ending was. And there's like a third of the book to go after that. And that is just him and her walking. And repairing and healing and looking forward and discussing like what it means to survive.
Yeah.
You know, or what it is that they've saved. You know, there's a price to be paid. You know, the death of Manon is really terrible thing. You know, I went around for years saying that Pilgrim's Progress ends when he kneels in front of the cross and all the burden falls off his back. And I reread, it's like about a quarter. It's only the start of the book. It's right at the beginning, but it feels such an ending.
Yeah.
And this, you know, so this is not that idea that the whole story that you just read and weighs so heavily on you is a prelude, is really strong.
It reminded me of a lyric by Lou Reed from Velvet Underground song, which lives in my head forever. I'm set free to find a new illusion. And the book ends set free on the verge of finding what the next illusion might be, or if it's not an illusion, if it's reality. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So thank you so much for choosing it, Frank. And we both, in our different ways, we were terribly moved to read this book or reread it anyway. And that's where we must leave it. Thanks to Frank Cottrell-Boyce for leading us into the tombs of Atuan, for illuminating the walls for us, and to our producer today, Tess Davidson, for providing safe passage out again. If you would like show notes with clips, links, and suggestions for further reading for this show and the previous 246 episodes, please visit our website at backlisted.fm.
If you want to buy the books discussed on this or any of our other shows, visit our shop at bookshop.org and choose Backlisted as your bookshop. And do subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/backlisted. Remember, if you subscribe at the lock listener level, you'll get 2 extra exclusive podcasts every month, installments of Andy's new project, Inventory, and the chance to join a community of dedicated listeners and readers like ourselves.
But before we go, I'll start with you, Una. Is there anything you'd like to add about... I put Ursula here. See, Ursula, Earthsea, Ursula. It's not funny at all. Is there anything you'd like to add about Ursula Le Guin that we didn't cover?
Yes, I'd like to add 2 little things, actually. I'd like to, firstly, there's a book of maps of Ursula Le Guin that's coming out in October from Silver Press, which is reprinting maps from across her work. And there's a collection of essays there, including one by me on the maps of the labyrinths of the tombs of Atuan. And I think there's going to be a little exhibition as well down in London. So keep an eye out for that. It's coming out in October from Silver Press. And the other little thing is not related to Earthsea. It is about a journey. And not to make Backlisted entirely about members of my family, but thank you to everyone who contributed to my brother's charity walk, who gave some money from Lansdowne to John O'Groats. He finished. I've not heard from him for a week, but everything you gave, it really made a difference, actually. It helped him reach his stock. I'm incredibly grateful. So thank you.
Thank you, the Backlisted listeners, for being attentive and generous. Thank you so much. Frank, is there anything you would like to say about the Earthsea novels or about Le Guin that I feel like this show could go on for hours, but we can't do that because it would be fair
I think
to
you're
everybody.
inviting me to spend a long time talking. I would just say that she wrote a little book called Steering the Craft about the craft of writing. It's absolutely indispensable. If you're a writer, you should read that book.
What's it called? Can you give me that title?
Steering the Craft.
Steering the Craft. Okay, I've not read that.
That's also just been reprinted, actually. You can, Silver Press have just brought that back into print.
All right. Well, there's never been a better time to dip your toes in the waters of Earthsea and of Ursula Le Guin. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Una. We will see you in a fortnight. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
See ya.
Cheerio. Bye.
Bye.